Welcome back to Chips and Salsa, where we talk about security at Intel. I'm CRob.
And I'm Jerry.
Hey, Jerry. There was some really cool news that came out of Intel's Public Sector Summit this week.
Yes, indeed. Intel and Eclypsium announced a collaboration around transparent supply chain.
Yeah, and we have Anand Pashupathy from Intel and Yuriy Bulygin from Eclypsium to tell us all about it.
Anand and Yuriy, welcome to the show. And can you guys start us out by introducing yourselves?
Hi, Anand Pashupathy, and I work at Intel. I'm the VP and General Manager of our Security Software and Services organization in our Product Assurance and Security group. Nice to be here, Jerry and CRob.
Nice to have you here. Yuriy?
Awesome. It's great to see everyone, Anand, Jerry, Rob. Yuriy Bulygin, CEO, co-founder of Eclypsium. Eclypsium is a digital supply chain security company protecting enterprise IT infrastructure.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome,
Thank you.
guys. So I saw here today that Intel and Eclypsium announced some news of collaboration at this week's Intel Public Sector Summit in Washington, D.C. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we announced is a partnership between Eclypsium and Intel on key aspects of supply chain security, where we integrate some of the insights from two different technologies, transparent supply chain and Intel device health on Intel platforms into the Eclypsium infrastructure supply chain security software so that we can provide a better end-to-end continuous assurance of Intel-based devices for our customers, both from a supply chain vulnerability perspective, but also from the integrity perspective, so that our customers can verify both the supply chain risk of the devices that they have with based on Intel hardware and the integrity of those devices to make sure that no one tampered with them, no one has compromised, and all the components that are on those devices are haven't been altered and not counterfeit.
That sounds pretty awesome. I guess, Anand, can you tell us more about what these services from Intel are that Eclypsium is integrating?
Yeah, there are really two separate services. The first one is Intel Device Health set of capabilities, and the second one is from Intel Transparent Supply Chain. And all of these are put together as part of Intel's endpoint client services. So as Yuriy was saying, think about Intel Device Health as a way for us to, identify systems that are not patched with remediation for known vulnerabilities or Intel security advisories that we would have published. Normal scanning software cannot find that. Most of the scanning software cannot find it. So that's a capability to be able to share that insight as part of Eclypsium's dashboard. So that's on, hey, is your system not up to snuff from a security perspective? The second part is more around supply chain. It's to make sure that what's shipped from manufacturing is exactly what is being used in an enterprise or in an IT shop. And IT shops can do that comparative between what they have with what was shipped from the manufacturing side and gather that insight again as part of Eclypsium's visual product or their offering, and then the IT department or the IT administrator can make a call on the basis of these insights being offered. What action should they take? So it's really combining supply chain security with providing additional level of protection at the endpoint.
That's pretty interesting. Anand, could you maybe share the significance of this collaboration with Eclypsium and Intel?
So there are the combination of Intel Device Health and Transparent Supply Chain gives IT administrators a level of insight that has not been possible today. Because if you use traditional scanning software, they, in a lot of cases, are not able to identify if a particular foundational piece of hardware, be it microcode or firmware or BIOS, has been patched to combat against a known vulnerability or not. That level of information doesn't exist. Intel Device Health gives you that information. And the fact that, it's very hard for people to do a comparison at scale between what was shipped from a manufacturing site to what was deployed in an IT department. That level of information and like a diff at scale is not possible. Now you combine the power of all of this in a simple to consume offering or an insight from Eclypsium. It really gives, I would say, superpowers to the IT administrators and insight into their fleet where they can actually go do something about and not just work in the blind. And I think that's a significant upgrade to what IT professionals do today.
I like superpowers.
So why did you guys choose a public sector event for this announcement? Are these issues top of mind for federal customers?
Jerry, yes, absolutely. In fact, supply chain security is a national security issue today because we're all kind of a part of the global supply chain. We're all using external technologies, hardware, software technologies, and all that. And every government, federal agency is relying on a technology that has been built by someone else with components integrated into those hardware and software products from hundreds of suppliers. And without really understanding what is in that technology, what is in that hardware, which components are in there, how vulnerable they are, and how big of a risk we're not able to assess the risk. So how are we going to defend our nation without this sort of capability? So as a result, we saw a number of supply chain breaches in the last couple of years. SolarWinds breach, absolutely, but just most recently, right now, there's an exploitation going on against the Citrix Bleed vulnerability. Campaigns like Volt Typhoon or Black Tack, or earlier this year, Black Lotus type of attacks against those fundamental components that go into our PC or server systems. Those have been increasing significantly. So as a result, we see a large number of regulations from National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence and NIST and CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, and Defense Federal Acquisition Requirements, and so on and so forth. Regulations that can bring that technology into kind of a compliant state and empower users of that external technology to understand what they're getting and how much supply chain risk they're inheriting. But how are those regulations enforced? Those are, we need to have capabilities to enforce those regulations and empower our users to understand the technology they rely on. And from the government federal perspective, this is an absolutely critical issue, and they need to understand the technology they're buying and relying on in their critical mission. They need to understand the vulnerabilities and have a real-time, constant access to those insights about the supply chain risk of every component that they have. And so I think as part of that collaboration, we're offering this capability that will help our government defend our nation.
I really find this just completely riveting and fascinating. Could you gentlemen share what types of information Intel's able to provide to Eclypsium?
Sure. So again, we're talking about two different sets of technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So let me talk about transparent supply chain first, right? think of a box that's leaving a manufacturing site with a birth certificate or a signed certificate. I'm using the birth certificate as a pun of that device, and it comes to an IT department and it gets deployed inside the enterprise. We are providing additional tools to Eclypsium to interrogate the systems to basically compare against the known birth certificate that left manufacturing with the state of the platform to see if there are any differences. So with that, Eclypsium can flag and say, yep, this is not the same machine that left the manufacturing side, quarantine it and do something about it, right? So it gives you that level of visibility from a supply chain perspective or a supply chain attack perspective. The second technology is around Intel Device Health that I told you. It basically compares systems at scale against known security advisories, known CVEs that Intel has published to see if the system has been patched or not. And Eclypsium uses tools that Intel gives them to, again, interrogate the system to compare against, hey, was the system, given the foundational elements I told you about before, which is the microcode or the firmware or the BIOS, has that been patched to combat against known vulnerabilities or not? If it is, it gets a clean bill of health. If not, then it gets flagged as something that needs to be patched. And that power of being able to do that at scale really is what we're talking about in this collaboration. I know you asked Yuriy the question about why at the public sector summit. It's important because people want to know where was the device manufactured or assembled, and we can give them that level of granular information so they know it was not produced in a controlled country, for example.
Well, thanks for that, Anand. Thank you, Anand and Yuriy, for joining us on the show today to talk about this new collaboration between Eclypsium and Intel. And maybe we'll have to have you guys back on the show later on to give us some follow-up on that.
Would love to do that. Thank you for having us.
Oh,
Exciting.
thank you.
Thanks for inviting.
Wow. I mean, come on. That was so awesome to see this collaboration, Jerry, and how Eclypsium is integrating all this Intel knowledge into their product.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses, and maybe do a future episode on the follow-up there. But that's it for this episode of Chips and Salsa. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.